Mayor of the town of Clayton, I'd like to call this town council work session meeting to order. Thank you all for joining us today. And you have council members in front of you, your agenda for this meeting, and I'll entertain a motion to adopt or any adjustments that you'd like to do at this time.
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda
Second.
as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, up next going to be staff introduction and recognition. And we're going to start with David White, our water reclamation superintendent.
As you can see, got online, brought on the recognition team. Can y'all hear me now?
That's better.
There we go. Thank you. All right, so I guess I'll just start down the line. First, we have Juan Rodriguez. He is our first instrumentation control pump technician under our new maintenance staff for the plant. Juan lives literally like 5 minutes down the road, and he has a 2-year degree in like PLC programming for SCADA, which really is going to be beneficial for the new plant with the brand new SCADA system. So we're glad to have Juan with us. Next, we have Jacob Louder. He is our pre-treatment fog coordinator. Him, along with Heather Boyd, our lab technician. She was not able to make it today, but you've probably seen him driving around town in the Fogmobile, kind of being the liaison for us for restaurants and FSCs for inspecting grease traps, as well as any new developments that come in town. He's been here since November, just really been hitting the ground running, doing a really good job. Next, we have Matthew McMillan. He is our plant maintenance supervisor. We were able to steal him from Duke University Hospital in Durham. He lives just right up the road in Gardner. He brings about 20 years of industrial plumbing experience. He's already got his maintenance technician class 1 certification, and you're taking your bio grade 1 next week, right? Have you been studying? Good. So yeah, but with him and Juan, we're still down one more pump tech, but once we get that position filled, we'll have a fully functioning maintenance staff, not only in preparation for our continued operation at Little Creek, but once the new plant, Sands Branch, is up and running. And then lastly, we have Lisa Joseph. She is our plant operations supervisor. We were able to steal her from City of Raleigh. She was there for about 6 years, where she started out as the operations superintendent and then rose up and became resource recovery manager. So with her, she brings over 30 years of wastewater experience as a grade 4 operator. In total, we have 60 years of experience of water and sewer between 4 people. So we still have 2 more vacancies, a senior operator and 1 more pump tech, but besides that, we'll be fully staffed. So we've been hitting the ground running, been doing a great job, and we're looking forward to the future.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, David, and welcome to each one of you. We're glad you're here.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Happy to introduce Sharon Wiesbeck, who is our new business analyst for the ERP system. Does everybody remember what ERP stands for?
No.
Enterprise Resource Planning. So effectively the software that is the brains of the operation for pretty much everything we do here, specifically the financial elements of it, but also HR and well, pretty much every facet of the jobs that we do here at the town touches the ERP system in some way, shape, or form. Sharon brings over 20 years of experience working with these types of systems, either ERP or HRIS, and I could throw a whole bunch of other acronyms at you. I'm sure she can too. But we're really excited because as we've spoken about this effort in the past, this is a real big modernization effort that the town's moving towards, both to be able to help operate more efficiently internally, but also for transparency and other reporting needs that we have from the external perspective. So Sharon has been a member of the community and even owned a business here for quite some years. So she hit the ground running last week. She said by the end of the week, she already felt like she was here at least 2. So we know she's getting a lot done in a short period of time, but just want to welcome Sharon and give her an opportunity to say hello.
As he said, I have been from Johnston County all my life. I was born and raised in Johnston County, been in Clayton since 2011. I owned my business for about 12 years and have been back with state government for 5. And I am happy to be here with Clayton and help us provide the community service that everybody deserves.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome.
welcome.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
All right, up next, under items for discussion will be the safety update, and I'll give the floor to our Risk and Safety Officer, Jerome Parker.
Thank you. Council, thank you for having me here today. We're going to talk about a little safety initiatives and training that's been going on over the last 6, 8, 10 months, whatever, this whole last year. It's been real busy. I would like to say that safety starts at the very top. In all of our safety briefings, my safety technician Devin's here today. Every time we have safety trainings, briefings, we let everybody know safety starts here and it dwindles down, cascades throughout the organization. All right, so that's the way we feel about it, and it really shows. All right, so I appreciate all you guys' continued support in our safety efforts. Nathaniel, I guess I'm gonna do this. All right, there's certain things that safety has to do every year, and one thing is report all of our injuries to OSHA, right? Well, we also have to send it to the Department of Labor, public and private sectors. All 3 of these entities are in the same building, but they do not share any type of information. So you have to do 3 reports 3 different times. And if you're lucky, OSHA will send you another survey just to check and make sure that you give them the same numbers 2 times. So far this year, we have done all the OSHA one, and the private sector, and the surprise little OSHA survey. So all those are done. And the public one comes out from the Department of Labor in about a month or so. So we'll do it all over again. So with that being said, work-related injuries and illnesses that are required to be recorded to OSHA would of course be death, loss of consciousness, days away from work, restricted work activity or job transfer. If someone gets hurt and they can't do their job, we put them in another job, we would classify it as that, or any medical treatment beyond first aid. And some of the other things that we have to report will be dehydration. If an employee gets dehydrated, they have to go to the hospital and get fluids. And let's say they come right back to work, we still have to report that to OSHA. Another would be a needle stick, police officer arresting someone, putting their hands in their pockets, getting stuck by a needle, we have to report that. Any blood-related issue where someone's blood gets on you and you go to the emergency room and get checked out, that has to be reported, no matter what. And if you have 1 stitch, something's required 1 stitch to get sewed up, that has to be recorded. Now, if you go to the emergency room and they put a little butterfly on there, that's just first aid. We don't have to report that. Any questions on any of the things that we have to report? All right. Town of Clayton's reportable injuries. I have 2 little tables there, one from 24 and one from 25. In a nutshell, in 2024, we had 9 injuries that we had to report to OSHA, and this year we've had 10. Why would we have 1 more this year? It's a big question, right? Well, one thing is we have more people this year than we did last year. And if you look, a lot of the issue, we had 5 last year, other recordables, and 3 this year. So 3 this year, we had like 2 blood incidents, and 1 person got cut and they had to get stitches. So that was 3 of those. If you look in 2024, we had no days away from work. So if someone got hurt, they got fixed up, they came right back to work with no lost time at all. And this year, we've had 5 away from work. And we have all the departments there, and they're running about the same. One year, one person will get hurt in one department, and next year they're good in some other department to get hurt. So we only have 10. I'm getting ready to show a bunch of big numbers, and you'll see that 10, we don't want anybody to get hurt, but 10 is really not that many when you talk about as many people as we're getting ready to talk about. Any question on these? Well, here's a bar graph. We do things in safety. We do more than just look at numbers. We got bar graphs and pie graphs and all that kind of stuff. This is for 2024. Same numbers. Just another way to look at it. 2025. In 2025, Town of Clayton, we had the total number of hours worked. 1,077,768 total hours. That is not including you all's hours, council hours. Mayor, councilman, Rich's hours is in there, all the deputy town managers, but no council hours. Because I know y'all probably worked 1 million hours yourself, right? But everybody else, we had 1,077,768. That's a lot. We had 550 Town of Clayton employees, full-time, part-time, and that's including summer camp employees, Parks and Rec. Again, that is not, you all are not counted in that. So we had 10 total reportable to OSHA, which comes up to 1.76% reportables per employees. That's a really good number. Again, we want to say 0, but out of 550 people, that's not too bad at all. Any questions on those numbers? Now, all those numbers got straight from NeoGov, so it's straight from Mr. Robert. Talk about some training that we had contracted in. 2025, we had some flagger training complete where another company came in over to ops and qualified a whole bunch of people to be qualified to be a flagger. We closed the road down. The guys are out there with stop signs and all that kind of things. That's what that entails. We also had a company come in and do some chainsaw training. The same company did chipper training, and they also, over on our Durham Street site, put up some light poles and put some lines on it, and we did like a mock-up storm tree removal off of power lines. And the concentration was a tree falling on a power line. When you cut it, the pressure of being released of the tree and all that and all the dangers. That was some very, very good intensive training. And that cost was very minimal to the town of Clayton because we let them keep their power poles up, and they can come, and when they have new employees, they call us and say, hey, we got 5 employees we want to train, or okay, we got 5 employees too, we want to send them over there. So it's kind of, we give them a little 20 by 20 spot, and they train their employees and they train ours, and we all benefit from it. Also, we gave reasonable suspicion training at the director level this year. That is, on the safety and risk side, that is all the training that I'm accounted for. I know we've had all kind of other professional development training and stuff, but this is what I'm responsible for. Other training updates. In 2025, 6 employees were qualified in our Town of Clayton entry-level CDL driver training, saved just entry fees alone over $40,000. We currently have 5 people in the program, and 4 of those people, 3 or 4 of those are getting qualified for the CDLs this month in March, which would be another total savings of like $35,000. Now those numbers, that's some pretty clear numbers. At $75,000, that's just entry, where we would have to go out, and if we had to send someone out to a contractor, they would charge $5,000 a person just to do their theory training, not alone the time that they're people were away from work and overtime, we got to pay someone to be there. We're using our in-house people, our vehicles, our equipment they're training on, so it's very beneficial for us. Next, Devin, the safety technician, he was qualified a couple months ago in CPR, first aid, and AED. That allows us now to streamline our first aid and CPR training. Before, I was the only one in the town, besides the fire department. The fire department has a person, but I was the only one that was teaching our guys at like ops or people at ops in town hall. And I could only do like 12 people. So now with 2 of us, we can do 26 people at a time. So that reduces the hours that we have to communicate with, say, wastewater treatment plant. Hey, can you send us 2 today, 2 tomorrow? They can't shut down just to have that. We understand that. So now we can just go over there and shut down for 3 hours and get it all done, and we're good to go. Currently, we have all of the CPR and first aid and AED training for ops and wastewater treatment plant for the year. They're done. So we don't have to visit that training again for 2 more years. And it's April and May, we're going to be doing Parks and Rec and all of Town Hall. So if you're interested in that, get with myself or Devin and we'll get you in a class. Any questions on any of that? All right. One other thing we've done recently is AEDs have been added to every floor, including the basement in the Town Hall. Before, I think we had 3 on maybe hit or miss on the floor, but now we have them on every floor, well depicted on the wall with a big sign, AEDs. And this year, we're also going to get a safety first aid kit by every AED. Our emergency evacuation maps have been replaced, revised, updated to include, here's one right here, actually. It's a little bigger. You can actually read it. It says you are here on it. So if you go there, it's just like going to the hospital. You are here. Got a primary route, a secondary route. Has fire extinguishers. They had fire extinguisher pull stations. Has AED locations. So very, very good. We got that done here. And our next project is the community center. We'll get that done. Bless you. Then we're going to head over to ops and PD. It will be completed there. We're also developing a 12-month safety schedule that will enable all departments to see ahead of time what safety topics are being trained for this month. I think next month is safe driving. So be able to look at the schedule, go, oh, what are we doing in March? Oh, okay, we're doing this. Classes are Tuesday through Thursday. Okay, we'll send our people 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock every Tuesday and Thursday. And if I figure out that a month's not good, we'll run it into the next month. As long as we get it all done, we'll be good. Any questions on that? I know that's a lot. I'm going fast, but training. Okay, also we're going to have reasonable suspicion training this year for supervisors and superintendent levels. And then also myself and Devin are going to get trainer qualified, so we won't have to farm that out anymore after this year. So that's going to be a huge savings for us. I think I said this, but March is going to be scheduled safe driving in collaboration with North Carolina League of Municipalities. We have developed a very informative safe driving presentation, and we're going to give it out to all of town employees. The primary objective, reduce vehicle incidents. In 2024, we had 23 total vehicle incidents, and 2025, we had 25. So hopefully, talk with the league, got this training together, want to pass it out, and hopefully we'll reduce those down significantly. Also on the risk management side, we only have like 1 active claim, personal property claim that's out there. I think we're doing some mowing, something hit a house, knocked a hole in the side, and we're getting that fixed. And then we also I know it's in July, but it takes 5 or 6 weeks to prep for is our annual workman's comp and property and casualty policies. So that's a big, long, drawn out, a lot of work. So try to start early, getting prepared for that. Maybe, okay. The next thing on the list is dehydration. And I talked to fire department about this, and I got it okay by my boss. We're going to purchase on-the-go testing for dehydration. 2 of those incidents that I showed earlier, we had 2 people dehydrated this year. So if we can get these little test units, we can go around, Devin and I can go around, test people's hydration limits. And if they're above the limits, hey, you got to take a break, drink some water. As soon as you're good, you can go back to work. That'll save us people away from work, save us emergency room visits. One guy was away for like 4 or 5 days after he was dehydrated. So hopefully this tool right here will, if we can help one person, we'll get our money back from it. I think the whole thing is like $1,500. So I think that it'd be well worth it. Any questions? In the past, we've had these placards in our town vehicles. Devin has gotten it and gotten with fleet management over there, and we've gotten a little more detail with some correct numbers, and these will be, I think Devin said, on a different paper, different color paper, and different font. And it'll be laminated, put in all the town vehicles, so if they have an accident, there it is. No excuse. This is exactly what you do. Step 1 through 5. All the emergency numbers. That's for a accident. And the next one is non-emergency. If you have a flat tire or whatever, turn it right over, and that tells them exactly what to do, exactly who to call. So everything should be clear and cut what to do here. Any questions? Any questions? Thank you for your time. Anybody?
Well, yeah, I mean.
I know it's a lot of information.
No question is a bad question.
Right.
But I think for those joining us, virtually, could you just define reasonable suspicion training?
Reasonable suspicion.
Because
training.
y'all know what it is, but everybody else might.
Right. Basically, you have all the council members. You're in charge of all the council members. Let's say David comes in, Lee smells alcohol. Lee's might not ever had that training. I know he has. He's been around for a while. He's had that training before. Let's say he doesn't. He just can't say, okay, Mr. Raines, you smell like alcohol. We got to take you for a fitness test, right? He's not qualified. He's never had the training. He finds someone that has the training. You have the training. He goes up, hey, Mayor, this guy smells a little off. Can you please go talk to him and figure it out? You go, you talk to David. Maybe he's fine. Maybe Lee's got a problem, but he didn't, right? But it has to be like 2 documented episodes.
Gotcha.
Right. So, but he's not qualified to say that. Legally, in the court of law, he is not.
Gotcha.
He could go send David down there. He could pass with flying colors. Well, David now, he is the fire chief, right? He's the big man on campus. His reputation is ruined now because Lee said that he was drinking at the council meeting, right?
Gotcha.
So he files all kind of claims against us because defamation of character and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. That's good to know.
Right.
Anybody else?
I have a comment to make.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate all that you shared with us today about safety.
Yes.
I was curious to know your dehydration equipment.
Yes.
Will you just have one or you have more than one?
No, at first we're going to get one and figure it out and make sure that we know how to use it for one, get certified in it, and make sure it's something that we actually want to use. I don't want to waste the money. I mean, I'm not gonna say waste the money, buy a whole bunch of them, pass them out, and they just sit in the closet, right? Because right now, you almost know as much about it as I do, right? Until I actually get it, get the information and read it and see if it has to be certified or calibrated or what. I don't even really know I know it's test strips. I don't know if you stick it on your tongue. So as soon as we get it, we'll see it works, talk with the directors and go, hey, this thing really works, right? What I don't want to do is get it and shut the whole job down. Everybody go hang out and go, I think I'm dehydrated. So we really got to get it and get an SOP written for it and use it to figure out, okay, this is going to be really beneficial. Let's get every department that works outside or one of these things.
Oh, awesome. And my second comment is I'm very impressed with the certification that you are all providing, getting
Oh, yes.
trained on.
Yes,
That is
ma'am.
so awesome with that and how much money you've been saving. Very
Yes.
impressive. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anyone else?
Congratulations on your percentages. That is, people who don't deal in that don't know what that number means. That is an excellent number.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
Great job.
It takes everybody, trust me. And it's not just me, it's everybody. All right. This guy right here helps out a lot. He might not know anything about reasonable suspicion, but that joker knows something about safety.
Thank you, Jerome.
Thank you.
Up next on the agenda will be the library update.
Thanks. Good afternoon, Mayor and members of council. Christopher Lalonde, Capital Program Manager. So today we're going to have a brief kind of overview of an update on the library status. And with me will be Tim Robbins and Brandon Carroll that will kind of present on the exterior piece. I'll have the interior portion of the project. So for an agenda, kind of what we're going to go over is the overall project kind of update, any activities were completed, ongoing, and upcoming. So kind of that standard slide that I usually present with. And then do interior progress photos. I did something that was kind of neat where I took the rendering photo and put kind of an angle, similar angle with it, just to kind of show representative progress in that. And then there'll be kind of a general summary on the exterior work, as well as kind of going through a few of the plans that we have that we create internally for demolition, hardscape, and landscaping, and then kind of some photos for the exterior. So as the usual slide here, so I know that council had toured the facility back when it was just steel studs, so it was just rough framed. So since then, we've completed all the rough and mechanical, electrical, plumbing. It's been drywalled, mudded, first coat of paint, I believe second coat is also on. We also have all the lights installed that are drop in the ceiling kind of tile. None of the decorative ones, those will be done at the very end just so they don't get damaged. We have door frames in. Right now, there's restroom tile that's mostly done. I believe it's near completion. Ceiling tiles are ongoing, kind of putting all those tiles in the ceiling. Millwork and countertop, some of it's installed. Other pieces are going in. Storefront glass is going in. And then currently the exterior demolition and renovation work is taking place. Kind of next steps you'll probably see is carpet, LVP flooring, final paint, and really trim out. So we're in the home stretch essentially. And right now we're tracking on budget and on time. So right around the original times. So the first photo, so this is the main library kind of area. It's, as soon as you walk in, you can kind of see that colored bulkhead, that green bulkhead that's up there. And then the accent wall in the back, there'd be a circular kind of curved desk that kind of goes at that wall area. But you can see all tiles are starting to go in soon. This one is kind of when you first walk in, turn to the right in the main library. It's just kind of an accent wall where there'll be some furnishings. Most of the wall will probably be covered with tall shelving, so there'll just be a kind of a band at the top, but it will be kind of soft seating kind of area. This is a picture kind of at the front. There's that decorative entryway, piece of millwork, and there'll also be a bench, so that's kind of part of the millwork. Furnishing package that will go in there, so that will soon kind of go in, but everything's painted up and ready. This is kind of another picture of that main circulation desk area, back where the display screen will be. So we're still kind of in the main library area. This is kind of when you go into the teen room. There's a couple study rooms you see on the right. And the fireplace, that's kind of straight in the middle. That one, it shows as green on the rendering, but we'll probably do some kind of vinyl or a graphic that will kind of match the theme. So that's kind of TBD at this point, but it's going to be ready and prepped for that graphic to be received. This is a photo looking at the kind of the main corridor. This is where, you know, your laptop bar will be, the restrooms, and so that should be soon going in. Countertops, a couple of the rooms have countertops in them right now. This is the children's room, looking at the circulation desk. Again, that circular desk is not in yet, but it'll be very soon, kind of looking back at the corridor. The community space, so this is the furthest room to the end. So we've got that, like some green bulkhead that in the rendering it showed it as white. We chose to kind of do it as green just so it all ties together and matches and feels like kind of one main space. And yeah, you can see the millwork, the backsplash tile that's in there, and the countertop is installed with the sink. And these are just a couple other shots I had included of different angles. Right one's on the study room, and then the left one is kind of that main library area. Okay, and then so this is the exterior work, so I'll hand it off to Brandon and Tim.
So in conjunction with the interior renovations, we committed to sort of sprucing up the outdoors. So the landscape around this property is a bit dated. It's been there for many years. A lot of older plant material that's been pruned and maintained, and it's gotten overgrown. It starts to have disease and issues like that over time. So our goal was, as we're getting towards the end of this interior renovation, to really spruce up the exterior of the property as well, sort of tie it all together as one complete project. So along with some of the aging plant material, also identified that we had some ADA compliance issues. So some of the sidewalks from the parking lot access into the building weren't necessarily compliant, and certainly had opportunity for improvement. The items that we have listed here, removing the existing ADA crossings, so we're reconfiguring some of the striping in the parking lot a bit. Currently, the handicap parking space is across the parking lot with a long, safe passage area marked out all the way across the parking lot and over to the sidewalk. So we've reconfigured that to get that parking space closer to the building, with a compliant ramp up onto the sidewalk immediately adjacent to that parking area, as well as constructing some other accesses into the building, which required some demolition of some existing sidewalk, but we've got some layout that puts it back in some locations that's more pleasing to the eye, got a little curvature in it and things like that. It's just, it'll be a nice change, and it will allow for the access that building should have. Along with this, we'll be replacing all the foundation shrubbery, as well as we'll be resodding the yard with Bermuda sod. And have Brandon here, he can speak on the details to the plant materials that have been selected and things like that. Hardscape accessories, removing the brick pavers along Church Street. That's between the back of curb and the sidewalk. There's a small area there that at some point in time, some brick pavers were installed there. So we're removing that, so we get a nice turf strip in there. We removed and installed a new art sculpture pad. So we moved the pad that accommodates the what's currently the granite bench and the books. that location is very close to where the new monument sign needs to go. So we've sort of shifted that around towards Main Street, moved it over there, and then there'll be a new monument sign going in the corner of Main and Church. And we also removed the existing bike rack, and we'll be replacing that with a new bike rack as well. The one that was there was getting in pretty bad shape. So this is a really busy plan, but it identifies all the things that we had proposed to do. We sent this to our planning department review to be sure that we're meeting all of our obligations. This sort of lays out the plans that we intend to do here.
That does include maintaining that or keeping that old dogwood tree that's out there, right?
Old dogwood tree? It's not a dogwood tree out there. You familiar with dogwood tree? There's a star magnolia.
There's two big trees. And around the handicap spaces, there's 2 oak trees out there. All that's remaining.
Was the star magnolia maybe what you were thinking about to the right of the front door?
Yeah, on the corner.
Yep. That will remain. We're going to prune it just a bit. It's got a few leaders that are leaning towards the building, but we're going to shape that up nicely. There is right behind that, sort of immediately on the corner of the building, there's an American holly that is aged, is diseased. We're proposing to remove that and replace that with a fairly large maple tree on that corner. That tree's become a bit precarious in regards to its safety to the building and the public. As a matter of fact, we have a certified arborist on our staff within the grounds department, and Brandon will be providing his report in regards to the health and safety of that holly tree. So be a little bit different look there, but proposing a trident maple, which is has some really nice fall color. We believe that will be a good selection for that site. As you know, we've got pretty limited space on that lawn, so sometimes selecting species can be a little limited as opposed to selecting a large tree or something like that to go there. But this holly is old. You can read in the arborist notes. It's a forked tree, and it's starting to show a lot of distress in that fork location. And we believe it's a risk to the building, as well as the other leader is more towards Main Street and some overhead lines and things like that. So we would like to remove that tree now in this renovation, put back this maple tree as part of this overall landscape, and nurse that thing along to be a bit of a canopy tree on the corner of that building as this holly tree has been for several years. So.
And so far as the monument sign, is that like going to be a standard Town of Clayton monument sign like I see everywhere? Or is this going to be something that's more fitting for the outside of the library?
That's following the standard that we've been moving forward with. I think we've had 3 installed so far, one at Fire Station 2, one at Municipal Park, and one out at the entrance to Sam's Branch Water Reclamation Facility. This one will be a scaled version of it. So those signs are pretty large, but imagine the exact same sign, but scaled down to fit on this smaller property. So same style and same appearance, just tinier sign to fit. And that'll go roughly in this corner right here. I think it was, I don't know how to make this back up. It was on the previous slide, but it would go there. What did I do? It would go right here. There was a pad with that granite art piece there that's now up here highlighted with that red arrow. And we've already been working on some of these items. So the pad for the art piece is already moved over here. We're removing the location that the book drop was previously placed. It'll actually be closer to the door and align with traffic flow a bit better. If you were familiar where this location was, if you stopped in a car to drop a book in the book drop, the back of your car is probably hanging out in the street. So we've sort of pushed that inward in the property a little bit so that when you turn in from that direction that you can pull up to the book drop and be well into the property.
The bike rack that's going to be removed, is that going to be repurposed somewhere else?
We had talked about using it somewhere near a trail, right? So if we'd certainly repurpose it. It needs to be recoated. It's scarred up, I guess, from bikes being chained to it or people being
I actually
abusive
see
with
more
it.
kids climbing on it than I do bikes being part of it.
Possibly so.
But, the parent is close by, so I don't say anything. No, that's great. Any questions or comments?
Well, I'd just like to commend you on the job and the due diligence you're doing. I mean, nobody's excited about moving and taking down trees if we don't need to, but it sounds like you've done exactly what you need to do. And I was looking at the pictures of where the fork is, and the town manager was showing me where the problem was. So it's definitely a hazard, and it sounds like you've picked the perfect tree to go in its spot. So thank you for doing all the work.
I appreciate it. We're very fortunate to have an arborist on staff now that I believe is around 30 years of experience as an arborist. And to put it in simple terms, that branched tree, every year, that branch gets larger in diameter. And what it's essentially doing is prying itself apart. So it is its own wedge, and it is headed towards a structural failure in the tree, most likely sooner than later at this point. So that's sort of, he put a pretty extensive report together here regarding it and used some pretty technical terms, but that's sort of the simple explanation for what's going on with that tree. And we feel right now is probably the best time to go ahead and address this, as we're going to we're going to renovate all those plant beds, new turf going down, addressing the irrigation that's on site. It's aged and has had failures in it over years, sort of been abandoned. We're getting that back in shape. So we'd really like to be able to do this in this process so that we're not trekking back into this newly renovated lawn to remove a tree and replace it later.
Just like to make a comment as well. I am excited because, the library is one of mine too, so I'm excited about it. But more than anything, I'm so happy to know that you're on schedule, on time. And so I appreciate your presentation, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
To that point, I moved here when the library was in the basement at the old town hall. And we've come so far, and to see all the possibilities in that space, I think we've used, or the planners have used every square inch of possibility in that library. And it's just, I can't wait for the public to be able to go in and see it and use it, because it's going to blow their socks off. It's going to be wonderful.
It's a beautiful space.
Let's just make sure, if we're going to take down some very mature groomed shrubs, that we're not putting little dinky things back that's going to take 10 years to fill it in. It's always been such a focal point for downtown. And then on the previous slide where I saw the exterior and the row of hedges, right, it looks good, even though I know they're deteriorating and they're probably 15 years old at least. But just, let's make sure we replace it with what looks nice. Scale, proportion, like all the things.
Brandon and his team been working with local nurseries. I don't know, have you been on site yet? But we've talked with local nurseries. We're actually going to hand select these items on site at the nursery. So we're not subject to just pulling up at the pickup point and they throw whatever is next in line on the truck. We've got the opportunity. His team has worked with the nurseries that we'll be procuring these items from. We're going to hand select them.
Nice. Awesome. Great job. Thank you all.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. All right. Up next is the items for discussion is the political signs update.
So I'll go ahead and tee up Conrad here. So obviously we are in the midst of political season currently with the primaries going on. This time of year, we typically get a lot of questions about political signage and, where they're allowed, sizes, things of that nature. I think what we've realized is that with our current UDO, the language is maybe a little more restrictive than I think as a town that we have previously allowed for, and we anticipate getting additional requests moving forward. So I had asked Conrad to kind of look through everything, check the general statutes and any federal laws that may apply, and come up with some ideas of how we can maybe streamline the process. So turn it over to Conrad and let you guys hear what he's found.
Thank you, Rich. Conrad Olmedo, Planning Director. To Rich's point, political signage we discussed at the council retreat in November, so it's not too far from that. Just a quick presentation overview. I'd like to just do a quick introduction, talk through the current UDO standards, touch on some of the North Carolina general statutes, talk about some comparables, talk about the NC planning listserv. So I sent out a question to all the planners in the community, come up with some proposed guidelines, and communications office, thank you to Nathaniel and his team, created a printable flyer and a website draft update. So at the town council retreat we had in November, there was a great point made about standards for political signs, and there seemed to be some lack of consistency, if you will, in the town's application of standards for political signs. And this is true. There was last election cycle, there was direction to provide notices to certain candidates to acquire permits for their signs on their private property. So this led to some enforcement action. And what I'd like us to do is, to Rich's direction, is to prepare for the next election cycle. I don't think tomorrow is the next election day, but we'll go for the one in November. So real quick, just some photos of what we're working with. You have, in a nutshell, you have political signs that are in the right of way and signs that are in the public or on private property. So there's different locations where these signs occur. And I'll note that there are also some of the, pressure washing signs that find themselves kind of planted in there. They nest them in there as well. You can also see how many signs people put up and the varying sizes of signs. So it's very creative. And I can't think of a better audience to talk about this with than you all. So thank you. So touching on the UDO right now, the UDO really speaks to this North Carolina General Statute 136-32. And I'll go into that a little bit more. What that says is that state statute is specific to signage that is political in the right of way. So when it's not in the right of way, then staff is posed, well, where do we park, if you will, these political signs? And so that's where we're looking at our temporary sign standards. So we're looking at issuing permits for these types of signs. Issuing permits is what we do, but it's not my preferred method, just so y'all know. I may regret saying that, but with regard to political signs. So touching on the state statutes, What's really unique about political signs is that the state law distinguished this type of sign with the period of time in which they're put out in the public. And it's 30 days before early voting and up to 10 days after that election day. So you're able to put out political signs during this period of time, and that's what the state statutes really point to. They also say that they're located in the right-of-way of the state highway system. So it's not like it's a free-for-all. It's the state statutes really point to, you can put political signs within the state's, the NCDOT state highway system. Then it goes down a little bit more and it gives you some standards. It says that they have to be 3 feet from the edge of pavement. So whether or not it's the back of a curb or whatnot, but let's just say it's the edge of pavement. They're 42 inches in height, so 3.5 foot. And they're no bigger than 864 square inches, which I challenge anyone, what does that mean in square foot? Anyone knows? It's 6 square feet. We did the math. So 6 square foot, your 2x3, a typical political sign. Then it further says, in the absence of a local standard, you pretty much default to this in your town maintained right of way. So what we have is state law that says political signs can occur to certain standards of height, location, and area, how big they are, where they can be placed and within the right of way, the duration in which they can be placed before an election and up to and after an election. But it's really silent with respect to private property. I'll add private streets. And it also kind of defaults to their standards when there's an absence of local standards. So in the pursuit of knowledge, looking at the city of Burlington's UDO, which for transparency, that's where I used to work. So it's a quick go-to. Also the town of Wake Forest, which is where our Courtney Tanner, our prior deputy town manager, worked. So there's just some good kind of quick go-tos. And just looking at comparables, you'll see this theme emerge. Not one town does it the same. Yeah, Wake Forest is a little bit different than Burlington, which does it different than Clayton does. But what you can see is that the zoning districts in which they're allowed, in all zoning districts, there is maximum height, there is maximum size, maximum number of per lot, or none. Some require no permit or allow without a permit. They generally are not illuminated. Only allowed within the NCDTO right of way. So some jurisdictions don't allow them in their own right of ways. And then it talks about the time of period of in which they're placed. Then I posed the question out to the community of planners, and I got about 6 responses. Anything from someone asking me not to be on the record because the political signs are a hot topic in their community. So it can be a very hot topic in the community. So they said, we don't touch them. So there's that approach, and I'm familiar with that approach, where if political signs, we're just not going to touch them. Hands off. And then there are some communities that do apply standards for private property. Some say they're just exempt signs. Some communities don't allow them in their locally maintained right of way. Some they have exempt, some require permits. Some have even taken the step of identifying political signs as non-commercial signage and creating some standards for that. Even the duration of time in which these signs can be placed is a little different. Some say 60 days, whereas state law says up to 30 days before the election or early voting. But what is consistent is that they're allowed in all zoning districts. Okay. So what you have here is a copy of some proposed language for you. This language was created with review from the town attorney. So thanks to Emily Cawley, who took a look at this, and her associates for state law compliance. I took this to Chad Meadows. He's with Code Right Planners. He helped draft the UDO. He expressed some thoughts as well. But what you have here is pretty much a build upon existing standards from the city of Burlington with the input from all these other folks that have looked at the code or at the draft. So in brief, they incorporate the height, size, location, and period of time for NCGS. The standards, I've looked at the Johnston County Board of Elections schedule from 2026 to 2030 and created some clear dates of when you can put signs up and when you have to have the signs removed. And really it led to an exercise of understanding how you can, or how we could break down the location of the placement of political signs. So you have private property, you have private streets, town maintained right of way, and you have the NCDOT state highway system. So breaking down this guidance right here, it's just a definition that was taken from the city of Burlington along with some comment from our legal department. What it says in a nutshell, it's classifying a political sign as something that's a little different than normal signs. And I'm saying that because signage, for the most part, you don't want to have to read to understand the content because you want to be content neutral. And that's from Supreme Court. Gilbert versus, there's a church that was in Arizona that was a town of Gilbert versus someone, forget who the church was. But that state law, that federal law says you shouldn't have to read a sign to understand the content. This is a little bit different. I can see if Conrad is running for mayor, not that I would, sir, but then you would know that versus Conrad's pressure washing or I buy homes. So it's a little bit of a distinction in the definition, and it really ties to the period of time that the state law says you can have a political sign. Then the next one is the allowed in all zoning districts. And then it goes down to the placement of the signs. And something I think is overlooked, the state law says that you have to have permission from the property owner on which that frontage is. So even though you're putting the sign out on the public right of way, if that abuts my property and I'm not giving you permission, that sign doesn't have the right to be there. When Chad was reviewing this language, this was a big question. How do you establish, how do you determine who's giving permission? How do you track who's giving permission? And that was really something that we're just going to have to, unless we start to issue permits, we're going to have to just assume that if there's a sign placed in front of someone's property, that property owner is giving the permission. So the language here pretty much mirrors the state statutes with respect to private streets, town streets, rights of way, and NCDOT state highway systems. I want to note that the town could still prohibit political signs within its own town maintained streets. That's not the direction that I'm going in, though, or I would be proposing. The limit on number of signs, City of Burlington says up to 6. This is proposing no limit on private property. And again, the placement within the right of way or on a private street, you're really not supposed to obstruct other signs. So you could have 20 signs, as long as they're not obstructing, you could theoretically allow that to occur. The height of signs, 60 inches on private property, that allows 5 feet above grade, so you can get a 6-foot 4x4 with an 8x4 sheet of what are they called, of sheet of plywood, and post that into the ground. But when you're on the right of way, you're up to 42 inches in height, and that's kind of mirroring the state law. So for the private property standards, I've kind of taken what Burlington's provided. So the size, 32 square foot, an 8x4 sheet of plywood you can put on to your property. 6 square feet, though, elsewhere. The setbacks, there would be no setbacks. Distance from the edge of pavement would be 3 foot, and that would mirror the state. And basically signs not to obstruct one another. So I can't put my sign in front of someone else's sign. Not that that never happens, I'm sure. There's an addition of, so an interesting note, we had an instance where people were putting a political sign or a candidate wanted to put a sign or a supporter store frontage, a window. So this gives an allowance to have up to 50% of your window to be used for a sign. Not within a sight distance triangle, keeping that, free from vehicles for safety, not on poles, not to be illuminated, and maybe removed if it's not compliant. Then there's a graphic here that pretty much illustrates what the words say. Now we're going to the schedule from the Johnston County election schedule here. It's pretty much using a date calculator, when the election day starts, and then you go 30 days before, and then 10 days after the election day. So our goal is to have all this on our website right now. So here's the webpage. Josh Probst, he created a draft of this with the information that's in this packet right here. So it provides the details, it provides these guidelines, these standards, provides you with the schedule, and really it provides you with, and then we have this flyer here, so that way if somebody emails a question, we can easily provide this to the candidate, we can give this to the Johnston County Board of Elections, we can provide this on our website. It can be pretty transparent. This kind of information for candidates that are wanting to put political signs within the town of Clayton's planning area. This is just a breakdown of that flyer right here. With the QR code and an 811, so in case somebody wants to put something on their property, they don't damage any of their lines. And when I got feedback from one of the town planners, they provided me with the map, and so I asked our GIS team, and they provided this map that shows just the town and NCDOT roads. So if I was a candidate, I would know where I can put the political signs. So really, you kind of can see. I think the key aspect here is there's a private street versus a public, either town or NCDOT. So that sums it up. I'm happy to entertain any questions that you all may have.
All right. Thank you. Any questions or comments? I think it's good to get some clarity on this. So thank you so much. Very beneficial.
So I think the plan would be that the language that's proposed here would be incorporated in the next UDO text amendment that will likely hit planning board in May. Is that what the timeline is looking like? So if you do have any thoughts or questions coming out of this, certainly send your feedback to Conrad. Feel free to send it to me. But the intent would be to get this in front of planning board in May. If it's a successful recommendation coming out of that, you all would see it sometime in June. That would hopefully be well in advance of the 30-day for this coming November's election. So that is the goal. But again, if you or any of the council members that are not here today, we'll make sure we get poll them for their feedback as well. But that would be the intent.
Great. Thank you. Awesome.
All right. And up next on the agenda is the wholesale power bill update.
Well, Matt's walking up here. I think I sent you all an email a couple weeks ago. We got the formal notification regarding some rate increases to the wholesale bill. Admittedly, I am a novice when it comes to being able to explain this stuff. So we are lucky that we have Matt Proctor, who is an expert in all things electrical billing here. So I'll let him explain this to you all in terms of the who, what, when, where, and why, and some other thoughts he's got moving forward.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of council. Happy to be here to talk about everybody's favorite topic, a rate increase. But I hope at the end of this, maybe we can answer some questions and ease some concerns. So just want to go over a little bit of background information, some components of the wholesale power rate. key drivers of this cost increase, and just a little bit of a 2-year outlook. So, Town of Clayton is one of 32 member municipalities in the North Carolina Eastern Municipal Power Agency. We call that NCMPA. And then sometimes you may just hear me refer to that as the Power Agency. All of that's the same. NCMPA has a full requirements power purchase agreement. We call it FRPPA with Duke Energy Progress to supply the members wholesale power needs. Electricities, everybody's heard that name quite a bit. Electricities serves as the membership organization responsible for managing power supply on behalf of all of the NCMPA members. Duke Energy Progress issues monthly wholesale power invoices to NCMPA, and then NCMPA subsequently turns around and bills each member community for its portion. All right, so the wholesale rate components. Our wholesale rate, or wholesale power cost, consists primarily of 2 elements plus several riders. Energy and coincident peak demand. And this would be consistent with, most any other commercial or industrial rate. Any business here in Clayton, you're going to be charged on your energy, which is your usage over time. And then your demand, which will be, a max level or a certain amount of power consumed at a given point in time. In this case, the coincident peak demand simply means what is Clayton's demand during the single hour each month when Duke Energy Progress experiences its system-wide peak. So at the end of the month, Duke tells us what hour their peak was, and we're charged on what our load was during that same hour. These two components alone, or these two components are the subject of the 4.5% increase, which will be effective on April the 1st. All right, so you can see there's several wholesale rate riders, and I'm happy to go into as much detail as you all would like today, but I would like to just touch on them at a high level. So the wholesale bill includes several riders that account for true-ups, delivery charges, lease facilities, generation credits, compliance obligations, and other support services. So Rider 1 is an annual true-up that reconciles estimated and actual power costs. So at the beginning of every year, Duke Energy Progress has no way of knowing what the actual cost will be for the whole entire year for supplying power for parts of North Carolina and all in South Carolina. So this Rider 1 is simply just a true up so we're billed on a monthly basis on what those estimated power costs are, and then at the following year they true everything up, and that's what Rider 1 is. Rider 2 just recovers delivery point metering cost, 6 cents a kW of bill and demand. Rider 3 are charges related to lease facilities. So I've got a note up here. We lease the transformer at South Substation, and the 2 transformers at our North Sub, we purchased those. So, but that Rider 3 is those lease facilities for our power transformer at South Sub. Rider 6A and 6B are generation credits associated with NCMPA-owned assets. So these are generator assets that the agency owns and operates on behalf of all of the members. Each month, the power agency runs them for load management peak shaving. They back out any O&M cost and any credits left over for reducing the coincident peak. All of those credits get dispersed out to the members. Rider 7, 7A is power agency service charges. These are a lot of support services, including NERC and CERC compliant activities, APPA dues, legislative, financial, and legal support, including territorial rights. 7B is, real quick, is compliance costs associated with hitting our annual renewable energy targets. And then lastly, Rider 8 is the debt defeasance support charge. So many of you, if some of you were around back in 2015 when the power agency sold off its generation assets, this Rider 8 was when I say sold off the generation assets, Duke took back over control of our generation assets. There was a little bit of debt left over that the power agency spread out over the course of 10 years to the members. So this Rider 8 was our portion of the debt, which was satisfied at the end of June of 2025. All right, so cost increase drivers. Some of the key factors in this: delayed retirements of coal-fired generating units. It just costs more money to operate coal-fired plants. The addition of some new natural gas-fired generation scheduled to come online in 2030. Increases in fixed operations and maintenance cost. Reduced energy demand across the Duke Energy Progress system, and lower market natural gas prices. All right, so what is all, let's get down into actually 2026 and what does all this mean? So there's several significant changes that'll happen this year. Starting out, actually, when we receive our March wholesale power bill next month on or around April 10th, that is our last and final payment of Rider 122. So that's one of those true-up costs that I mentioned earlier, but a couple of years ago, those true-up costs got to be so large that the members elected to spread them out over 24 months instead of just trying to capture them in 12 months. So this is, we're on the home stretch here. Got one more payment of the Rider 122 cost, which was just shy of $34K a month. Later on this year in September, Rider 123 will fall off. That was, you can see that was just a tick over $30,000 a month, and likewise it was a rather large true up, so the agency elected to spread that out over 2 years. All right, so Rider 8, I mentioned that we paid, that debt was paid off. This was a big deal, big celebration with the power agency. Last July, I think they had an event in Wilson where several of the members came out and celebrated. But as part of us paying off that debt, there was a debt bond release. And so our portion of that, we will get a credit of $297K in April. All right, Rider 124. So the good news here is, whereas the Rider 122 and 123, we were spreading them out over 24 months. We're trying to get back on a cycle now where we can take care of our true ups. And I say we, again, this is not just Clayton, this is collectively as the agency. But we're trying to get back where we can take care of these true ups in one calendar year. And so our two payments for Rider 124 would be $240K. One of them in April and one of them in July. And then so lastly, in April, the implementation of this, we're calling it the FR11, so that's full requirements. 11 means that this is the 11th iteration of this rate, or the full requirements of power purchase agreement. So the implementation of FR11 rate begins in April of 2026. So here's just a graphic that kind of shows that same timeline that I just went over, but it puts it in a little bit easier to understand. All right, so what are the actual impacts? The notice came out saying it was a 4.5% increase. So what are the actual impacts to us here in Clayton? So based on an analysis that I worked on that took the 2026 rate increase details, but I applied 2025's, so last year's billing determinants, last year's energy, last year's demand. So dollar for dollar, pound for pound, when I use the same determinants and plug in all of those events, that timeline that I mentioned is happening in 2026, the net impact on Clayton's wholesale power costs is right around 2% actually. So it doesn't feel like a 4.5% increase. Now, this estimate does not include impacts on weather variability or customer-driven load growth. We all know we're growing at a pretty rapid pace here, so I want to make sure that I don't give off the impression that we're only increasing by about 2.5 or 2% on wholesale power costs. Our town's power costs may be going up, but it's more driven by our load growth and not this rate increase. And then I'll also add here that our electric rate design consultant, 1898 and Company, they're conducting a more comprehensive long-term financial analysis to support future planning and forecasting efforts. So looking ahead, here's current projections from electricities are indicating that wholesale rates may increase by another 5% next year. However, there's some good news, hopefully. If approved, the proposed Duke 1U merger is expected to mitigate this increase and provide greater rate stability over the next 5 years. So what is the Duke 1U merger? So on the mostly eastern portion of the state, Duke operates as Duke Energy Progress, the old leftover from Progress Energy. On the western side of the state, it's Duke Energy Carolinas, so DEC and DEP. They're looking to merge and come together as one. I don't know what the official name is, but as of right now, everybody's calling it Duke 1U. So if this merger comes through, it should mitigate that 5% wholesale power cost increase next year. More to come on that later this year, but the details are actually looking pretty good. So I know I went through that kind of quick, but happy to entertain any questions or comments.
So just for clarity, 2% and 5%. 2% in the short term, 5% for next year. That's what the conversation is.
Yes, sir.
But definitely 2% for starting April.
Yep.
Gotcha. So, that's 2% more than what I want to see it be. However, if anybody's been watching the local or the national news lately, you see where the increasing cost of electrical is everywhere across our country. And certainly North Carolina is no different. But, we have to do what we have to do, but we've got to figure out how, moving forward, to do something that helps support the reduction of the utility cost.
Yeah.
And especially and specifically as it pertains to electricity. Yeah, that's all I got.
So I did come back to one of my earlier slides. I wanted to point out, and you're exactly right, and I hear you loud and clear, and I think this is, on everybody's mind. But one thing I want to point out is of these two primary elements of the wholesale power cost, that coincident peak demand right there, when I look at that number, that accounts for 2/3 of our bill every month. That one item counts for 2/3 of our bill. So to me, the question is, well, how do we get that down? And I've been working with Lee and Rich, and we've got a lot of good ideas going. We have, the town currently has about 5.5 megawatts of generation that's allocated through the power agency for the purpose of load management and peak shaving. And up until recently, we really haven't been taking advantage of that generation. Now, the biggest portion of that is 3 megawatts of generation that's coming online later on this year at Sam's Branch. So that will be a tremendous help to the town when that plant comes online and when we can start running those generators. But additionally, besides those, there's a generator at Police Department, one here, and a couple of the other ones at Little Creek. So we've got a plan in place. We're looking to work on those and try to get them back online and running for peak shaving. So, very optimistic that we'll be able to help lower some of those costs now.
So just to clarify that, I was asking Rich, so having those generators working like they need to work, we can run those generators if we need to at a peak point.
Yes.
And shave that usage down. So if it coincides with that, we'll be doing better when they look at what they're going to charge us.
Yeah. There's potential for us to shed about 10% of our annual wholesale power cost.
Yeah, I think so. For Matt's much more versed in this than I am, obviously, but from a load management, load reduction perspective, like he was mentioning, so Electricities basically monitors literally the usage across the entire system. When it starts looking like it's creeping up to the point where we may hit that coincident peak, which effectively that 1 hour in the entire month ends up equating to 2/3 of your bill. But as their staff were trained to watch all the, they're reading the matrix while everybody else is just going through life, they send the signal out, which at that point would allow us to drop several of these buildings, and more importantly, when Sam's Branch comes on with the systems that we've invested in out there, we could significantly drop that load so we get off that coincident peak, or at least our portion of it is not as significant. And so, again, we're very fortunate we have Matt that understands this stuff way better than certainly I do, or we probably have in the past. Now, we'll say on a few of those, there are some upgrades we probably need to do to some of that equipment that is required, so hate to say it, you got to spend a little money to save a little money. But I believe that, I haven't gone through his budget proposal request just yet, but I believe that that's going to be in there, and we're going to be looking to do everything we can to make sure that that investment is able to be done sooner than certainly this year if we can afford it. Main thing we wanted you all to take away, I know the document obviously said 4.5% increase. I'm sure a few of you all that I've talked to initially, rates are going to go up 4.5% immediately. I think that's where Matt was trying to show you all that really the net impact to us is about 2%. 1898 & Co. will be here in April as part of the longer preliminary budget work session to present some of their initial findings with the rate model. And I believe last year they were proposing 2.5 or 3% increase for this year. And we're hoping even with this 2%, unforeseen 2% increase on the wholesale power charge, that we can keep it somewhere in that range. But more to come. We'll have those numbers for you in April. But again, appreciate Matt getting his head into all of this to try to make sense of what is a very complicated bill that comes every month.
It is. It's very complicated, but I think the citizens want to know the hows and the whys. So I hope eventually we can work with communications team, to talk about electric rates and why they are the way they are. Or maybe it's not even a Clayton for You series because that's very short. Maybe it's something that's a little more detailed that you can click on the link on the website to help explain to people why the cost is a little bit higher, but then also in the same vein, be able to show them how much quicker repair and response times are on behalf of the town of Clayton versus when you're one customer of 500,000.
You just nailed it. That's the benefits of public power. Yep. And we are competitive, especially on our residential rate. We're still trending below Duke on our residential rate. We're maybe not quite as competitive on our commercial rate, but but we're working on it. We'll get there.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Today's been a great presentation.
And I'm just thrilled that your job's not my job.
Yes. I'd be at the Betty Ford Clinic. All right. So is there anything else to come before us? All right. Then hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.